You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm Brian Call. I've got Brad Hunt here beside me, and we're doing a quick little episode here on some of the carnivore recipes we've been rocking with.
Had a lot of questions about what we take in the backcountry.
And just a little update, brief discussion on our fitness, what we're doing. I can't recommend the carnivore diet any more than we already have. We've kind of hammered that a few times.
Yep.
It's working. Ryan Lampers, he just incorporated a little bit of berries into his diet for the first time. So he's been really strict carnivore for a year. Hit his year mark, threw in a few strawberries or whatnot, I think. Same here. I'm 2 weeks away from my year mark.
Yep. Correct.
I have a little bit of berries here and there. I don't really notice much difference. And the only thing that I'm finding, I do dairy, fair bit of dairy. You know, technically speaking, probably strict carnivore, I'd stick to butter. Yeah, I wouldn't do cream that much or any kind of like milk type stuff. But I do some cream, and I have some reasons for that. But I do notice that too much, and I don't feel as good.
Yeah.
That said, the way I feel now compared to when I felt a year ago, with 2 years ago, it's incredible. I'm younger, fitter, stronger feeling now
For sure.
than I've been forever. Ryan said to me over the phone last week, my younger self I can out hike right now. I think he's 51.
51.
My younger self couldn't even come close to me right now.
And I feel the same way. And like, even when Ryan and I, we went on a quick little jaunt, and I'm not getting anything, but we just did a couple days and we pushed pretty hard. I mean, the first day we did 11 miles.
Yeah.
And it was like, man, just
yeah,
the inflammation that's not there, as we talked about in a couple of the other podcasts. But
Brad is the weakest of us all because he fell off the wagon for 3 or 4 weeks.
I won't say I fell off the wagon, but I did through Christmas.
He calls it an experiment. I say it was giving into.
I'll tell you what, it probably was. Like, I did really good through Thanksgiving and stuff, but Christmas time, you know, there was just, I was like, you know what, whatever. And I think it was a really good experiment because I did for about 2 weeks. I did where I was still eating my burger, my steaks, and all that stuff, but I did add in like. And it wasn't a bunch of sugar. It was more like I added in potatoes. I had like one time I did have French fries. Just some of those other carbohydrates. And man, and I did have some cookies. I had a couple cookies for Christmas. but what a
the onion! Every time I find a little more out every time.
But it was very, very eye opening. You know, since right after just for New Year's, I went back to like, go back to your old last year habits, you know, because it was incredible. I mean, within probably 2 days, inflammation was right back, knee pain, just, I don't know, it blew me away.
You felt crummy.
Absolutely felt it. And bloated. So much bloating and gas came back. I mean, I haven't broke wind hardly at all in a year.
Right.
And it was like instantly right back.
Yeah.
So,
well, what I'm hearing from those who have taken on the challenge of going carnivore, those that have left comments, people we've met, friends, so far, pretty much everyone who's done it has been a success story.
So there's been like, I would say a couple comments were like, well, I did it for this long and this is what I saw and it impacted this. Same thing. Peel back the onion a little bit, the layers, and then there's more underlying stuff that they were doing that was probably the cause of the issues they were having, not the carnivore diet.
Yeah. Hey, if you like our show and you want to support us, you can head over to Canvas Cutter. They sell these awesome bed rolls that we've been using for years. You can just throw these suckers out on the ground, camp in them. You see I got my sleeping bag inside. Can't recommend them enough. They also have duffel bags, some of the best you've seen, Canvas duffel bags. They've got beanbag chairs as well. They call them the dirt bag. They got wall tents. Head on over there, use the code GRITTY. Check it out. Cannot recommend the bedrolls enough. Let's get back to the show. it's been remarkable. Can't, that's been good. It's one of the main questions we get at, which is what I wanted to just briefly touch on, is what do you guys do? You guys aren't carnivore when you go hunting, right? Or you're not carnivore when you go back into the wilderness for 10 days on a trip. And the answer is we're carnivore 100% of the time, 24/7.
Yep.
Well, I should say animal-based, probably, if we want to be real technical.
Because we do have the cream, the cheese, and like I said, some of the berries now or whatever. So, animal-based, still do a little bit of honey.
It's not like beef and water.
Yeah.
We're not there. Ryan has been.
Yeah.
Although he throws in quite a bit of coffee, which is not exactly
And he does have cream in his coffee quite a bit.
Does.
So.
Lots of butter.
Yep.
So, but I'd say outside of some heavy cream,
that's pretty much,
it's mostly beef and water, elk and deer and eggs, that kind of thing. So real quick, what do we take on the backcountry? I take scrambles, egg scrambles, of, if I want to add ham, or if I want to add bacon, or if I want to add, even any kind of sausage.
Yeah, and that's what I do. I do bacon and sausage in every one of my egg meals.
Yeah.
And I don't get sick of it.
I do a lot of just straight up 6 to 8 eggs in one meal. And then I do a lot of sausage or bacon as well. But I like sometimes I just want straight up eggs and salt. And then other days I want eggs and sausage.
Right.
It depends on the day. But that right there is one backcountry package meal that's solid. It rehydrates really easy. On the realm of it all, eggs are pretty cheap, even though they're expensive. Everything is expensive right now, but in comparison to some other, it's not. The eggs are one of those things that are pretty handy.
Well, and they're like, for me, eggs are super flavorful, so I really love eggs. And so even for some of the dinner, so that's kind of like the breakfast, and I'll even eat that sausage, bacon, and egg for dinner. But I've been doing a lot of burger with scrambled eggs for dinner.
Yeah, which is like sausage with scrambled eggs.
But I just it's like it's not as fatty and stuff, so it's just a little different flavor, and that's all it comes down to, is a little different variety of flavor. That's it.
And then I like cheese, and I will never give up cheese, but there is raw cheeses. Steak and Butter Gal Bella YouTube channel. She's been incorporating a lot more dairy into her diet lately. I've been following her YouTube channel for quite some time. She incorporated dairy. She was on carnivore like 5 years, never exercised a day in her life, and still super fit.
Yeah.
It's sort of amazing how fit you are without exercise. It's like the cheat code into fitness is just eat meat, and then you're there.
Yeah.
Muscle, good. She had like solid muscle, and I'm finding like people who are carnivore for years, they have great muscle tone and strength without actually strength training. So you are what you eat, it seems, and she's a beast even though she didn't exercise. Now she's incorporating powerlifting and weight training and some other things, and she has found that she is hungry.
Yeah.
More hungry than before, and feels this need for more caloric intake, which if you've done any powerlifting and heavy weight training, as your body's just trying to get calories,
recovery to
yes,
fuel, whatever.
And the easiest way for her to get that boost is through dairy. Dairy is that animal-based kind of product, and years ago she did 0 dairy, and the reason was she had such autoimmune problems with her gut. Dairy was just out of the question.
Right.
Now she has incorporated dairy back into her life. It's digesting just fine, but it's raw. So she gets raw kefir at the health food stores in the animal food section.
Yeah. Can't label it as human consumption, but for your pups, it's okay to sell.
So you can go to like I suppose
Whole Foods or Natural
Grocers or something like that. Go to the animal section and they'll have raw kefir. Which is just a way to get around the regulations, I think, for human consumption.
100%.
Get your raw. She has some raw cheeses too, which I had a hard time finding. She got hers at Costco. They don't have it at my Costco.
Yeah, no, they don't, sadly.
But
I've been doing the Kerrygold cheese quite a bit. It's a little harder cheese.
I don't think you really need the older, more aged, and the more raw a cheese is, the less you're dealing with milk proteins, and the more you're dealing with milk fats, which is really what I'm looking for. I don't need the protein from the milk. I need the fat.
Yeah.
So that's been true in all the paleo books too, like aged old cheese, Primal Blueprint, Primal Diet, that kind of thing. They've always promoted an older aged cheese that's really rich. Those cheeses don't have as much of the allergic irritation causing elements that typical dairy has.
Right.
And then she's incorporated cream, heavy cream, and that is also raw. I've been getting raw cream from the neighbor up the road. I have yet to try to make ice cream out of it. I'm going to today. I just chilled it. I got the ice cream bucket in the freezer.
Yeah. So I'll say, because like one of the things I take in the backcountry a lot is like a fish chowder. It has, prawns in it. It has fish, whether it's salmon or cod or halibut, whatever it may be.
Yep.
I'll throw that in there in bone broth. But what I have found is I can't use, which, in most cases in cooking, I can't use a raw cream for that because it just kind of curdles while I was cooking. And so I got to use like the heavy whipping cream or something like that. That's a cooking cream.
Yeah.
More of a cooking cream than a raw cream.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yep.
So I have found that we take the egg scrambles, the sausage, bacon, that whole scramble kind of thing.
Yep.
We do cheeses, cheese sticks, Baby Bells, hard Tillamook or something like that. Cheese packages, various kinds. We do meat sticks, jerky, as healthy as we can, jerky as much as we can. The other thing that I've toyed with is just burger that you can rehydrate with a little cheese on it.
Yep.
Similarly, we've done steak, take a ribeye or a New York, freeze dry, slice it into thin slices after it's cooked, freeze dry it, rehydrate it. Not my favorite.
No, I found that especially when you've like busted butt and you get back to camp and it's like
hard to eat.
I don't feel like eating just that steak, all the time. So that's where I think where I started incorporating the burger and the chowder too. Like I really love, especially when it's cold weather time. I love having the chowder.
The chowder is money. But here's the thing. It keeps going back to dairy for me.
Right.
I think backcountry eggs and dairy kind of work well.
Yeah.
And the other thing, just like Bella, I've noticed for a while that when I do heavy, intense workouts, run a lot or lift heavy, do CrossFit style stuff, high intensity, that activity level. And then when we were hunting like elk and stuff and going like mass miles, packing out, all that, I was living on the heavy cream, or the butter. It was giving me that extra that I needed to keep up with the demand.
Yep.
Other people like Sean Baker is like, nah, you don't really need to. He puts in crazy amounts, wins the world rowing championship and so on.
Yeah.
Only eating meat. Now, I think, this, we've talked about it. I have a hard time digesting animal fat.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is I think for me, I found that the more fat I have, I don't have to replace as much with the dairy and the cream and the cheese or even the butter. Like I've noticed, because I still keep the fat content really high in the meat.
Yep.
My butter content has actually dropped a little bit from what I started with.
If I have that much beef fat, I think I don't produce enough bile, or my stomach acid isn't like it used to be. And when the way that beef or the way that animal fat works is, let's just use this analogy. Okay. You have enough bile to process 2 cups of lard.
Yeah.
Animal fat.
Yep.
And so when you decide, well, I'm going to eat 3 cups of animal fat, the body goes, okay, we have enough bile for 2 cups. That 3rd cup you just had, it's going to pass through you in about 15 minutes.
Yep.
And so that's how it works. It's just whatever doesn't get processed or broken down, the body just goes excess, dump.
Yep.
It doesn't go into fat cells. It doesn't store for later.
Just slides right out.
Just slides through.
Yep.
And for me, it's literally 10 or 15 minutes after overeating too much animal fat. It just comes out.
Yeah.
It's just like oil.
Yeah.
And water. It's not like discomforting or anything, but I'm like, that's what happens. I had too much fat. I exceeded my bile production.
Yeah. And as we're kind of talking about this again, get a little personal, but that is one thing I greatly noticed when I slacked, if you want to call it that, over Christmas, was within probably day 2, day 3, the bowel movements were much larger and much, I would say dirtier or whatever, you know, like the carnivore is just every couple days and it's clean, whoop, done.
Yeah.
It's not like that. Like it's,
fiber is bulk forming.
Yes.
It's large dookies. And
and I'm like, what the heck? So that was a big eye opener.
So for me, I've looked into and I'm considering ox bile supplement, which basically you get the bile from an ox and they collect it and you can take it as a supplement,
ingest it,
and then that'll help you digest or break down even more animal fat than you're currently able to break down with your own production. But I've heard mixed things, but I suspect it's much like taking a steroid injection for HRT. The more you take it, the more your body stops making it on its own.
Relies on it, yeah.
And I've heard from some carnivore experts that the more you work on, the more you kind of eat animal food, meat and fat, the more the body goes, yep, we need to up this bile production. More. Even people who have lost their gallbladder and have had it removed and now they're producing bile from their liver, because your liver will do it too.
Yeah, right.
And the liver typically doesn't have these big bulbous releases of giant loads of bile all at once. But people who have had their gallbladder removed, the liver starts to meet that demand and actually does get to this point where it can do big bulbous releases of bile. So your body will adapt.
Bodies are amazing.
Yeah, it will kind of do what it can. Yeah. So my goal was, okay, don't add any supplemental bile. Just keep eating, animal fats at about the right amount. I know if I have more than 2 slices of brisket in a day, or in one sitting, I should say, I'm going to have a problem. Yeah. If I have 3 ribeyes in a day, I'm going to have a problem. 1.5 or 2 is fine, and more eggs and butter are fine. So you figure yourself out. You're an experiment of one, and you get to know yourself the best the more you do this, and you experiment and you figure it out. I know where I'm at now, and so I can add the bile, and I think I'm at that point because I'm like, man, I'm a year in, and yes, I can eat way more fat than I did before. But I don't know that I'll ever be where you or Ryan are, which is, you guys don't really run into this problem at all. It seems like the amount of fat, you will never, it seems, eat to the point where it passes through you.
Yeah. And it's funny, I kind of think about it. Maybe it has to do something with that. Was Ryan and Hillary released a podcast, kind of his 1 year carnivore update or whatever. And I was listening to that. And Ryan talked about how he didn't get, the diarrhea at the beginning or sick or any of that stuff. And I was the same way. I didn't experience any of that. Now, my energy, like Ryan said, my energy went really low. I had to supplement something, ignite, whatever it may be, something to give me that energy boost, drive for the day. But I didn't experience any of the sickness, the belly aches, the cramping, the diarrhea, nothing like that.
Yeah, for me, even now, if I eat a pile of brisket like you would, my stomach bubbles. Yeah. And then I can tell, I start to burp.
This time, don't go too far.
And I'm like, oh crap, I have too much. Fat's not breaking down at all. Yeah. I can feel it's not breaking down at all. Yep. And I'm like, yeah, I had too much I had too much brisket, and it takes hours. I pass some diarrhea, and I burp a lot. It's like this stage where there's just too much fat. My mouth tastes like fat, and I get this weird feeling. It's all just because of over consuming animal fat, and then it goes, and it's annoying. And so I just really err on the side of never having too much.
Yeah, and that's where I think pemmican might not be something you deep dive into, because man, it is there's so much fat.
But Bella talks about this too. She talks about how if it's rendered oily fat, let's say you cook a burger and the grease comes out of the burger. She's like, yeah, you want to eat the grease because,
Yeah.
It's nutrition.
Yep.
And if you take your burger and you put the grease down on top of it, she said for first year carnivores, especially if you eat that, especially the first 4 months, avoid it. Do not eat the drippings from steaks and beef and all that. It will go right through you.
Really?
She's like, I don't know why. It just does it. So what I found was hot grease, like from a rendered burger or something. It was bad. It was really bad for me.
I'm like,
remember when we were at Corey Pearsall and he like cooked all that greasy burgers and there was like a stack of 3 and he's like, it's really great because I add the smash burgers and I add more grease and there's things in there to collect the grease. Mad diarrhea within 10 minutes of eating that. 20 minutes later, diarrhea for like an hour. I was like, frickin' A, Bella was right.
Yeah.
And it was so delicious though.
See, and it's so opposite because like I do every time I'm cooking burgers, whatever, I just dump it right back in and that's what I eat. Like I want that.
So the thing is I can eat that much fat in butter. No problem.
Yeah.
It does not do this. I can eat that much fat in like cream, like caloric intake equivalency, but hot beef fat or hot, any animal fat at all.
Yeah, and the
grease
drippings
and the drippings. I'm sensitive to it. Don't know exactly what the mechanisms are behind it, but it will cause a major problem. So the bile is going to be an interesting experiment. I'll let you guys know how it goes. To just throw in a little bit so I can up that brisket content amount I can eat, that intake being just a little bit higher. So that's all to just sort of give you a foundation for why I'm eating more ice cream than I would normally eat.
You're right. And it's so good.
And it's incredible. And my ice cream recipe is really simple. And this is what I've been taking on backcountry hunts. You guys already knew I was already in my circles. I'm the diesel, but also this diesel runs on ice cream.
He just exposed to us that he eats ice cream. I didn't expose that, but I'm just as bad as Brian.
It's come out here and there. I've shown up with 3 ice cream sandwiches per day.
Same way.
And the thing about ice cream is it weighs absolutely nothing. Right. It pretty much it's like a little light piece of foam. But yet the caloric intake is high. So the calories to weight are crazy. And in the past, it was full of sugar. Yep. So, it had these issues.
I was doing Haagen-Dazs a lot. A lot.
So the way that I've been doing it now is, especially like when we were doing our hunt for elk and stuff, there's so much exercise, so much exertion all day, every day. And I could only especially eat that much meat. Brad knows, especially later in the day. If I don't get my steaks in or my meat eating
throughout the day,
I can't just eat, 2 pounds, 2.5 pounds of meat all in one sitting.
Yeah.
I don't have that digestive capability for it.
I eat like 2.5 steaks to his like 3/4 steak.
If I miss eating all day, I will not eat that night. Yep. I'll just go to bed because I can't do it. My stomach is saying, nope, we're not doing this. I'll have a few bites. I'm full. Everything says don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't know why. But you get the feeling for yourself and everybody's different.
Right.
But what works really great is cream. So I have a recipe now and I'm freeze drying little ice cream blocks. We call it carnivore ice cream, but technically it's
like
really
keto.
like an animal based or keto ice cream.
Yeah.
And what it is, I take 2 cups of cream, heavy whipping cream.
Yep, I do 16 ounces. Is what'll fit in my ice cream
If
machine.
you can do raw milk, I think that's ideal. Yeah. This is raw cream. I'm working on seeing how that's going to work. But basically, it's 2 cups of cream and it's 4 egg yolks. So you double the egg yolks. It's 2 egg yolks per cup of cream.
Yep.
Super simple recipe. That's your base. 2 cups of heavy cream.
Yep. And then I just dump a little salt in mine to taste.
The salt is the trick for making it phenomenal, in my opinion. And you can get away with a really sweet tasting ice cream or just, I don't know, flavorful by getting the right mixture of salt and vanilla. We have real like vanilla, so it's kind of alcohol. We have the vanilla bean. My wife kind of lets it ferment. She's got like a bunch of these, and it ages like a year or whatever. And so we take a little bit of the vanilla, take a little bit of the salt, dump it in there, and then I might do a little bit of honey, like a tablespoon of honey.
Yep.
and you'll do.
So I'm actually experimenting with the ice cream side of it right now. So I've made some with honey, and the ones I'm making right now, I'm using a little bit of monk fruit in there. And
I've used zero honey or any sweetener at all.
Yeah.
And I pretty much like it almost the same.
I haven't up until the last, I did it in October as I was preparing for some of the hunts I was doing in November.
Yeah.
And so I just took that. And the other thing, with the cold weather hunts in those times, I was doing carnivore crack with the butter and bacon. You brown your butter. It's like two sticks of butter with, I do a full package of bacon. I want all the bacon I can get. So I do 2 sticks of butter, and then you melt that down. You don't burn it, but you brown it. And then I pour it in a small cookie sheet that I have, and I just sprinkle the crispy bacon. I never cook bacon crispy, but I crisp it for that, and I've spread it in there, and then I'll just put it in the freezer, and you break it up. Now, on a warm hunt, it's not going to be good. You're going to have a pile of just liquid.
That's where that freeze-dried ice cream, there's so many calories in that light little package.
Yeah.
And I can take that, it's egg yolks and cream.
Yeah.
Primarily is what it is. And if you get the salt, if you go too much on the salt, you completely ruin it.
Yeah.
If you go too light and it's not sweetened, it's just kind of flavorless.
It's like a bland, yeah.
But if you get the salt right and the vanilla right, it'll give you the illusion of...
It's like real vanilla ice cream.
It's like real vanilla ice cream.
I wouldn't say real vanilla ice cream, crappy vanilla ice cream that tastes good.
Yeah, it's wild. So anyway, I'll throw that inside the Cuisinart, I think is what I have, ice cream maker. It's a cheap little ice cream maker you can buy for like $65.
I bought, so we had one when we got married. We had it for like 10 years, never used it, got rid of it. And I found the exact same one that we had when we got married at the DI. Picked it up for $25.
Yeah, they're like $60 or 70.
Yep. This one has 2
Amazon.
bowls that I can freeze with, so it has one I can keep in the freezer and one I can be using. So it's pretty nice, just because that's what it came with.
This one is simple. You drop it in. It's got a little thing in there. It churns. It's the modern kind of newest one. But you dump the thing in, and in 15 to 20 minutes, I have fresh ice cream.
Yep.
And then you can freeze it into different blocks, and then you can throw it in the Harvest Right freeze dryer, and now you have freeze dried ice cream.
Yep.
And you can work out your caloric needs of what you think. So between the freeze dried eggs, meat sticks, cheese sticks, and, cheese, meat and cheese, snacks, jerky and pepperoni, and then a little bit of the ice cream, and like you said, like sometimes we'll have eggs and hamburger or some kind of eggs. It's almost like a lot of eggs and sausage and burgers.
For sure. 100% of all my eggs have some type of meat in them. Like, I don't just make any that are plain eggs. I like having the sausage or the burger or the bacon. So like my breakfast one has bacon and sausage in it. And my dinner one, a lot of times, is just the burger.
The other thing I'm going to do, which I haven't done much of, was just bone broth. We've done bone broth for years, but if you take bone broth and you freeze dry cubes of butter and you pulverize that butter, you can do you can take that freeze dried butter, add it to your bone broth, and you got a high caloric, tasty, brothy, total carnivore type, caloric, lightweight. It's got all this great benefits. So,
quite a few calories for something so light. And that's why I've been taking. I don't do it for every day because 1, it gets heavier, and 2, it's a little much. So I've been taking the pemmican, and I've dove down the pemmican rabbit hole, and I've found that I'm I just want to kill an access deer every year just to use it for pemmican, because the beef, it's okay. The elk, the deer, it's not great. And I've found, same thing with the ice cream. You got to figure out the salt ratio. Because oversalted is not good, and undersalted is just really bland.
It's crazy how much salt impacts everything on carnivore. It's the one thing about carnivore, we mentioned this before, for me, I have copious amounts of salt, potassium, magnesium. I'd basically mix those at a certain ratio. I have a little recipe for my electrolyte intake. And I drink a ton of it, and I have a lot of salt on all the meats that I eat, steaks and burgers and eggs. The butter is salted, but a lot of salt goes into everything. And it took me a while to figure out what that ratio looks like to stop being dehydrated, to stop peeing all the time, or to keep my energy levels up.
Right.
Headaches were a thing that I would occasionally get for a day or two, or lightheadedness from lifting and exercising heavy. And then I'd be like, an hour after I ran 4 miles, I'd be in the house and I'd feel a little swoony. And it took me some time to get the salt and the electrolyte thing up where I'm feeling great. And when I got my metabolic panels done, my blood work done, and I looked at the workup, it showed, like, even though I was eating a lot of this stuff, my actual sodium levels were just barely within,
like, touching the surface.
They're just barely in the okay zone.
Yep.
I'm one day from not having enough salt and dropping below. Okay, folks, if you like the show and you want to support us and you're in the market for a brand new sleeping bag, check out the Peaks Solace 15. We spent a lot of years designing that sleeping bag in partnership with Peaks Equipment. The Peaks sleeping bag has so many innovative features. The old backpacker saying that 2 is 1 and 1 is none is never more true. And this sleeping bag is so versatile. It can be a quilt. It can be a jacket. It's got armholes. It's a 3-way zipper. It regulates temperature really well. It's got the hood. It's pretty remarkable. Go check it out. Use the code GRITTY and you'll save. And it helps us keep doing what we do. Now, let's get back to the show.
And it's crazy because we're so different on salt intake too, you know. And but I found myself, like, before we were doing carnivore, like, I noticed you had to take 2 or 3x the amount of salt.
I remember one time, Ryan, I'm like, bring my electrolytes. I'm dying here on this hunt with Brady, you know, and he meets up with us, and we didn't eat for 2 days. Brady Miller and I, and we're packing out moose, and we didn't eat at all.
Yeah.
And then we ate just moose and
foundered on moose fat
and moose meat, but it was largely unsalted, and I was feeling bad. I was feeling not good. And so Ryan, I had like a electrolyte, like,
broke out each
day for each day, and each day I had like 6 of these little tiny sandwich bags full of various electrolytes, and it would be basically 6 drinks of just pure salt. And Ryan shows up with 1 bag, one little like sandwich bag, Ziploc, and I'm like, there's 1 per day. Where are the rest? Like, I needed 4 days worth. He's like, that's not 4 days worth. I'm like, this is 1 day, Ryan. And I'm depleted. Like, I am dying of not having enough salt. He's like, you drink 1 of those every day?
Right.
Like that whole Ziploc bag full? I'm like, oh, absolutely. If I don't get this much electrolyte, dude, I'm in trouble. And I sweat 10 times what Lamper sweats.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just sweat out a lot. And that's why I think I thrive in hot environments too. Yeah. If I exercise, I sweat. If I am in a hot situation, I sweat. Mm-hmm. My body cools like tremendously well.
Yeah. And my sweat's not as much as yours, but same way, but I just have felt in the backcountry and before carnivore, I didn't need as much salt.
Yeah.
Now, holy crap. Like, I have 4x my salt intake from before carnivore. The electrolyte intake, because if I don't, it's not necessarily like with, like you're saying, an hour of working out. Mine's the next day. I wake up the next day and then I'm like, oh man, headache. And I don't get the dizziness, but I just get like these little headaches that I know I'm dehydrated.
Yeah, took a little time to work that out. You know, Bella on Steak and Butter Gal YouTube channel, she had an electrolyte video she dropped maybe 6 months ago. I don't know, where she was comparing it to Element, which is the sweet unsweetened Element version that we have been fans of for a while. And it's an electrolyte that's mostly salt, potassium, and magnesium. But it's at a certain ratio. So she kind of duplicated that recipe. And she's like, hey, get it bulk supplements on like Amazon.
Biggest thing is you're getting a clean salt, because that's been kind of the controversy with some of the Element stuff is they're like, there's some microplastics and stuff like that in that salt. So doing it this way, you're getting I think a higher quality salt.
It's also cheap.
It's cheap.
Super cheap. And my daughter Abigail was having she's 19. She was having some autoimmune type issues. She wasn't doing well. Her testosterone levels were in the dirt. She had thyroid. She had all these issues. And I'm like, honey, we need to just try the carnivore with me for just a while and see how you feel. So she is now 5 weeks in, and she is crushing. She feels amazing. She's active. She's doesn't have the gut problems that she was having. Her body has changed. She's just leaner and fitter looking.
Right.
Like it's sort of crazy how carnivore sort of transforms your body into how it's meant to look.
So if you're fit. Yeah. And I've been like 10 and a half months on the carnivore, and I just kind of hit a weight that I maintain. Yeah. And that's where I sat. 192, 193, didn't matter if I ate a bunch or not. What I noticed in that 2-week period of slacking, I'm going to call it slacking. Yeah. I instantly gained 3 pounds. I was at 196, instantly. Sure. And I was like, gosh, dang.
You got to imagine all that extra weight that you sort of add up little by little by little. A pound a month after 12 months is 12 pounds. Right. And, another pound a month is 24 pounds. And it's not that hard. It's incremental and it's tiny. And then the bloating and the inflammation that comes from eating that way, I feel it every time.
It was a real quick eye opening of this is just go back to your
This is interesting too with Abby, my daughter. She's not a big huge meat eater. I've never really got her to eat tons of steak. She's just not that girl. Yeah. So eggs though, she can do some scrambled eggs and she's cool with that. She can do a little bacon. She's fine with that. Not much. The pork doesn't do as well as beef, so she kind of just a little touch here and there, a little ham or a little bacon sometimes, but mostly she's not into pork at all.
Yep.
What she's done is she figured out carnivore crepes.
Oh yeah.
And so she has beef collagen, or gelatin, beef.
I haven't made the crepes. I made that carnivore bread.
Well, she's taken that, and it's mostly eggs, basically, and a few other things.
Whites.
And hers aren't egg whites.
She doesn't do the egg whites.
No.
See, in the carnivore bread, I did the egg whites, and I just when I made my ice cream, I would use the yolks for the ice cream and the egg whites for the
crepes
bread.
Are yellow.
Gotcha.
And they're they look like real crepes.
Yep.
They break apart a little more. She's more careful when she makes them, and she'll make a stack, dude, like a 4-inch, 5-inch stack.
I'd slam that whole stack.
She makes them Sunday, but think about it. It's now it's like solid eggs and some. I don't know what else. Cream cheese.
Which I do in the bread too.
Yeah, it's also got cream cheese it's strictly clean cream cheese. There's no oils. It's just straight up cheese, basically.
Yep.
And anyway, and a couple other things. She mixes that up. She makes her crepes, and then she has a little bit of fresh berry. It's strawberries, or usually she goes for strawberries to blueberries. Puts a few in there, and she makes whipped cream that has no sweetener. So it's just
the berries are sweetener.
Yeah, berries are sweetener. And sometimes she'll put a little drizzle of honey if she's craving a little bit, but mostly she stays pretty sugarless. And she'll eat 2 or 3 crepes a day, usually 3. She'll roll them up, has a little whipped cream stuffed crepe with berries. She eats that. She eats, and then she loves the roast. I don't know why, but she is all about slow cooked crock pot roast. So she'll cook one roast, and she'll eat on it all week. So she can quickly pull it out of the fridge. She eats about a cup worth. Is her serve fist size, baseball size, maybe a little bigger than a baseball. And she eats that every day, and she eats the crepes, and she eats a few eggs. That's her go-to, and she can eat it every day, and she enjoys it. And so you can find a way that works for you going animal-based carnivore pretty handily. I mean, even people who I thought would never make it work is making it work, and she's getting tremendous benefits by doing that. So it's got me wondering, okay, well, what could I, is there a way for me to take these crepes now and fashion?
I thought the same thing.
My own kind of meal out of it for the backcountry.
Yep.
That's a nice snack just for rocketing up a mountain.
Yeah, because and what I was thinking too, because it's light, is at home I've been taking like roast and stuff, and then I'll shred it, and even some pork, and I'll just shred it, and it just has salt on it, and I'll make like a what do you call it? Like a pork sandwich.
Yeah.
But I'll do it with a taco, and I would just melt my cheese.
Yeah, because
I just cook my cheese.
You know, you're out there, and a lot of times we're backcountry hunting and stuff, and someone will whip out a stack of tortillas. Like I remember with Kramer, he's like, "Here's a stack of tortillas. We got some salami and some cheese. We wrap that up and squirt a nasty mayonnaise in there. And now you got this thing." I'm wondering with the crepes if you can't do something somewhat similar, because it is refreshing to have something that's like a sandwich, like breaded almost.
Well, I love, like, I'll just shred the cheese and put it on the flat iron and melt the cheese and and crust it.
So she did that. She was making cheese Parmesan taco shells and stuff. She experimented with that. It kind of smells strong when you crisp cheese like that, but it is good.
Yep.
But I'm just like too lazy to make those. I just eat the meat and cheese.
Yeah.
Like it's like, what do I need to make a taco out of the cheese? I'll just add it to the burger.
Yeah, it was mainly for the kids, and that's why my kids are. I've been experimenting with Courtney Luna's. I think her Instagram is. I think it's called It's Courtney Luna.
Yeah,
but she came out with a carnivore / animal based cookbook.
Really
great. It's awesome. Like, if for the wife that is questioning your carnivore decisions and stuff, like there's a whole variety. Like, I mean, it's this big, and if you are wanting to have more variety on the diet, it is great. It's great for somebody like that. Where me, I can just eat meat, cheese all day.
You can also go to Bella's YouTube channel, Steak and Butter Gal. They even have a community, I think, on Locals or Patreon or something you can join up for and become on some streams, and there's resources there. But she has recipes for all kinds of stuff. But that's all Abby has done, is kind of got on YouTube and been like, type in, I don't want meat, but I want carnivore. Like, what do you do? Carnivore recipes. And she stumbled onto and she tries new things all the time.
Yeah.
Dude, I do not need that. Give me a ribeye. Give me a New York strip and 3 eggs. I'm good for the whole day.
And I'm good, but I'm like, I do like to. This is the same way with archery. I'm a tinkerer. I like to tinker. And so I'm like, what else can I make with this and that? And that's why I went down the pemmican rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You know, and
I also thrive on, for some reason, on fresh, rare red meat.
Yeah.
And when I eat brisket, when I eat roast, I don't do as well.
Yeah. Yep.
There's, and I've heard Michaela Peterson talk about it's strip every day for like 3 years or something. She was like, she had that twice a day, every day in water, and anything else just didn't feel as optimal. I don't know what it is, dude. I'm the same way. Like, that is the go-to. If I want to feel good with no hang up.
Yep.
I go pound some brisket, and it's like, it got me calories, but I don't feel the same wellness.
Pork, like I cut, other than bacon and sausage, I cut all pork out. And chicken. Cut it out. I don't even eat it.
Chicken's dead to me.
Yep.
Same thing. When I first started carnivore, though, and this is simply a word of advice for anyone who's considered it. Just when you start, do chicken. Do pork. Do whatever you have to stay animal based. If you have to drink copious amounts of whipped cream and eat butter, do it. Do whatever you have to stay just pure animal based.
Right.
That's the recommendation. Over time, you'll 6 months later, you'll start going, or whatever time frame it is, you'll transition more and more easily, but desperately just try to stay animal based, whatever that looks like. Anything, if it comes out of an animal, if it's an animal based food, eat it. And if you love shrimp, if you love chicken, eat chicken wings every day, which I did. There were times where I was like, dude, this carnivore thing is a little bit rough on me. The month 3, I don't know why. And it's like, I need a variety. I'm sick of this or that. And it's like, well, I'll have skin on chicken wings and I'll rub them down and I'll throw a little bit. I'll even use seasoning I shouldn't use and whatever. And then over time, though, you get to a point where you just thrive on a steak. And that's it. For sure. I don't even experiment.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't experiment a lot. I just like to try the stuff that at home, because the kids, you know, because they're always like, it gets too expensive. I want to cook all the kids ribeyes and butter, because they're always like, oh, I just want ribeyes and butter. And I'm like, you can't do that. Sorry. You might get like a little sirloin or something.
That's where we pull out the chuck and we do a roast in the crock pot.
But if I had one piece of advice, just because it can be expensive, is like, plan out your meals per week, per month, is what I've kind of been doing. And so it's like, okay, for $120, I can go buy a New York, like roast or whatever from Costco, and then I can cut that up,
slice it,
and I get 14 12 or 14 steaks out of there that average about $6 or $7 a steak versus buying it for 12 or 13 bucks a pound a steak.
The other thing too is when you first roll out of the grocery store with a cart full of meat, you're like, this was $400.
Dang. Yeah.
But what you got to take into account is all the other things you're not eating anymore that used to cost you money too.
Right.
The corn chips, the salsa, the
bread,
the yogurts,
tortillas.
and like all the things that you used to grab
The sodies
and throw in that you don't put in there anymore, offset some of that cost.
Yep.
And then if you kill wild game, if you collect wild game, you got all that protein. You just need to backfill it with the right amount of fat.
Correct.
And there you can start getting beef fat. You can start getting some pork fat if you do well on it. Incorporate that into your wild game. And you can also backfill a lot of the lack of caloric fats from a lean moose steak with eggs and butter.
Yep.
That particular day, if you're having 2 moose steaks, just eat more eggs and more butter that day.
Yeah.
Or
have some bone broth, a little cream.
Yep. Get the fat intake up through a means of dairy.
Do the carnivore crack, because that's a great way as a snack, but also implement that fat and caloric intake as well.
We need to put some of these recipes up in a more formal fashion, like the chowder you're talking about.
Yep.
The carnivore crack
And
talked about.
We could do a whole nother podcast. I think we should later on do a whole podcast of like just our home stuff, because it is different from the backcountry stuff. And then that's where I think a lot of those recipes and stuff like that can really go.
It's funny because I'll be around some people that are like, they have this varied carnivore experience and they're such into the cooking, into all these things. Like Abby's like that.
Yep.
I'm
kind of like
at
that.
10 o'clock, I eat the first time for the day, a giant slab of steak. And then at about, 6 p.m., I eat another giant slab of steak. And I've drank water or Spindrift during the day.
Yeah.
And that is my day. And I eat twice a day. At this point, it's 2 times a day. There is no snacking. I'll have pork rinds here and there. And I make sure they're made with animal fat. They're not made with seed oil.
That is the other thing that I have been taking on some of these hunts quite a bit. Because I've been doing briskets.
It's hard to beat pork rinds.
I've been rendering that down, that the cut off fat waste of my brisket, and just I chop it up in these little half-inch chips.
Those are
oh my gosh, it's so good. And then I get the beef tallow off of it too to cook with.
So careful with that, like.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, folks, I hope you found this episode useful. Leave us a comment in the description field on the YouTube edition of the podcast. We try to spend some time there and respond to whatever questions you have. If you email us, there's a 50-50 or maybe even less chance we see it. It's buried in a million other things.
Right.
But hit us up on those YouTube comments, and we generally try to stay with you on that. So hit us up. If you have any suggestions of shows you want us to cover, hit us up down there as well. We literally try to read every comment on our YouTube channel.
I usually spend throughout the week a couple hours a week just making sure we're caught up, because especially when we drop a film, there's a lot that come through.
Yeah.
So
all right,
stay caught up.
Thank you for tuning in and always supporting us. Stay gritty.